Hey, what's going on? It's Mike coming to you guys with another episode of Keep It Moving Podcast. Of course, you guys can tell I'm your host, Mike B. But I'm not alone. They don't. I feel like I have to tell you guys often that they won't let me do this show alone because they are haters. And well, I can't even call JT a hater anymore. It's been so long since we've heard from him. But I'm accompanied with my beautiful, luxurious co-host, Novelty.
Is that your way of buttering me up since you call me a hater?
Oh, I'm not done. I'm going to continue to go down this hate road, but I thought I would just soften it up a little bit. How are you?
Hello.
I wanted to get your thoughts, before we get into the bull crap of the week or the past couple weeks, on the New Edition movie, because that everybody was talking about the New Edition little biopic on BET and how great it was.
Did you watch it?
No, I still haven't had a chance to watch it, but I know with you being such a huge New Edition fan, you probably know about everybody's story. You probably been over everybody's house. So I wondered how accurate you felt the story was.
It was really accurate. It was real accurate to what I know and then the personal things that I know. But it was very accurate. There were some tidbits missing, but I mean, I guess maybe they don't want to make those tidbits public knowledge right now, and that's fine. But yeah, it was really pretty accurate, and it was really good. I think this was not the Aaliyah story. This was not the TLC story. This BET gave this the time, the effort.
We've been hearing about really this show from like the entire summer, the entire fall.
See, if you're a New Edition fan, you've probably been hearing about it for a good 10, 15 years. But BET's version of it, you have been hearing about it for at least a year, a little more than a year now.
And then with like you mentioned, with the other biopics that they've done, or telling someone's story, they've a couple times they fail. So you get to the point where you don't know,
but
how it's going.
You just never know.
And then with BET, but I feel like this past year, BET they've come through. Like I feel like, was it MTV? What music awards show did a little Prince tribute, and we were like, really?
Oh, and then that was like Billboard Awards or Grammys. It was one of the two of them. It was
BET
Madonna.
Came out. They was like, you know what? We saw that bullshit. we got you.
And they had us.
And they came through and they actually delivered. So, and then with this the New Edition biopic coming out and them actually coming through and it being a success and it being good and it being like just the story itself was really, really good. And I feel like it had a lot to do with New Edition, the members being a part of the show, telling their story, which allowed it to be more accurate. I feel like BET is trying to step it up a little bit. So I'm actually proud of that.
It had one fail for me.
Don't say the commercials.
Fail. Well, two fails if you count the commercials. I mean, it was way too many commercials. But the only part I didn't like is at the end when they did the BET 25th anniversary. I would have loved for them to kind of change into the real New Edition. I would have liked to see the real New Edition do that, or at least a montage at the end of the real guys instead of the actors.
Show.
But I mean, otherwise they did a really good job. And the guys, even the little guy who played Little Bobby Brown, looked so much like Bobby Brown. It wasn't even funny.
Really?
Yes. And the guy, the teenager who played Ronnie DeVoe, he reminded me a lot of Ronnie. There were some places where I'm like, okay, that's not Ronnie. Like, he couldn't dance as good as Ronnie, or of course he was not nowhere near as skinny as Ronnie. But you could see in his acting, he really portrayed Ronnie DeVoe very well. So I have to say, I loved it. I loved the guys, the characters that played them. I think they did a really good job capturing who they were and, really making me feel like they really were them. Even though I
almost forgot that you were watching actors portray the characters.
There were times when, Elijah Kelly played Ricky. There were times when I was like, okay, he's really putting out that Ricky presence
and embodying the character.
That. Yeah, they did a really good job. I was proud of it.
Well, shout out to BET, Black Entertainment Television, which, I'm waiting on the current president to have an issue with that. Like recently, it's been going around that he's planning to rename Black History Month, because that's what this is. February, we know the shortest month of the year is, they give that to us. They get it to black folk. But he wants it to be, I believe, the National African American History Month or something like that.
No.
I'm like, it's Black History Month.
Just
that's what we're going to call it. And why did this even come up?
Especially when you don't know who Frederick
Douglass is not alive. Yeah.
And Martin Luther King Jr. is dead. If you talking to them, you got a problem.
And I wouldn't doubt that they probably are talking to them, because they smoking something real good in the White House at this point. And everybody probably thought President Obama was getting high in the White House. But we want to start this episode off with it being Black History Month. We want to talk about some Black history facts, as well as some Black excellence. I don't know if I expected that from you. You got a nice throat. I don't know how that
came out real wrong.
But that was you good. You did good there. Anyway, let's talk about, just to move on, let's talk about Sarah Rector. You know Sarah Rector. What do you know about Sarah Rector?
Nothing. Who's Sarah Rector?
Oh, I thought you said I know Sarah Rector. I'm like, because you know everybody. So I thought you had some fact, because you've been around for a long time. So, hey.
Who is
Sarah Rector, the reason I chose her for our Black history fact is the fact that she has ties to Kansas City. And, I was reading the headline. It says Sarah Rector received international attention at the age of 11 when the Kansas City Star in 1913 publicized the headline, "Millions to a Negro Girl." And so this was back in the time they were talking about her parents, and when they were growing up, they had ties to Creek ancestry, and they're talking about the Indians, their ancestry, and evidently they were paid some type of reparations, and they got land. Usually when they would give people land, it'd be land that you can't really do anything with, but her particular land, her father used to like rent it out because they weren't really doing anything with it, and people would come and drill on her land. But then somebody struck oil. And so when they used to struggle to try and pay the $30 tax a year on their land, she started to get $300 a day. And then once they actually struck oil and it became to manifest, or it started to manifest, she started getting what did it say? Like $11,567 in 1 month, 11,000. And so she started making boss moves, and she was like 11 or 12 at this point. By the age of 18, her and her family moved to Kansas City, Missouri. And at that point, she had stocks and bonds. She had a bakery. She had property in Muskogee, Oklahoma. She had 2,000 acres of primary river bottom land, and she was a millionaire by the age of 18.
Wow.
A millionaire. And this was off of land that, she got in reparations. And she was a child. She probably didn't have anything to do with it. But when people found out who she was, when it was made public who she was, that's when people try to come in. Everybody wants to try and marry her. People try to, talk down on her and try to manipulate her and get her land and steal it from her. But she was smart enough, and maybe she had the right people around her to prevent them from taking that from her. So she held on to it for years and became a millionaire by the age of 18. So shout out to Sarah Rector. There you go.
I wonder what happened to her land.
That's a good question. That's a really good question. I didn't even look that up.
She was able to pass it on to children. I hope so.
Yeah, we can hope. But a lot of times when we, somebody comes who has probably a little bit more knowledge than we have, and they find a way to try and manipulate us out of our property, and
right.
you know how it goes. But also, moving over to Black excellence, let's talk about Tierra Gwynn, 22 years old and already working for NASA. And hey, you're going to have to calm down. Now your throat doing too much. Working for NASA, they said, as a rocket structural design and analysis engineer for the Space Launch System that Boeing International is, I guess, building for NASA. She designs and analyzes parts of a rocket that she said will be one of the biggest and most powerful in history. And she's about to graduate. She's not even a graduate yet. She's about to graduate from MIT with a 5.0.
You go, girl.
So Black Girls Rock, Black Excellence. Shout out to Tierra Gwynn. Also, shout out to all of the black women out there and the black men, the boys and girls that are doing big boss things and not being recognized. Because I'm sure there's a lot. The only time we get recognized is when we're, it's some type of crime, police shooting, just some nonsense. But every now and then we need to, highlight some of our people that are actually doing or making boss moves and doing positive things to promote black unity, black excellence, and just being boss black people.
All right.
Now, another Black history fact that kind of came out, within the past week or two was our Black history regarding Emmett Till. That was very, very controversial. And I remember seeing the photos of Emmett Till, and I think his mom was saying they were trying to get her to do a closed casket because of what he went through.
And she said no.
And she was like, no, I want people to see exactly what they did to my son. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Emmett Till, story, I think he was he from Chicago? He was from somewhere, maybe the Midwest, but he traveled down south and he was visiting like a general store or whatever. And this lady named Carolyn Bryant, she told her husband that he whistled at her, he grabbed her, and basically assaulted her. And this caused, a couple days later, her husband and maybe a couple other guys found him, kidnapped him, and tortured this man and beat him until his body and his face was a child. Yes, it was unrecognizable, and
he was a boy.
This is, that angered everybody, and this was one of the catalysts to the civil rights movement as well.
Right.
But not only that, it came out more recently that she, Carolyn Bryant said, it didn't quite happen that way.
She lied.
He didn't really do that. That part wasn't the truth.
Trying to get her husband's attention, and she lied.
And that's what pisses me off, because nobody really did any type of investigation. Nobody cared enough. It was her pretty white word against this black boy. And they just took the law into their own hands, tortured him, killed him, and threw him in the river.
And they were not prosecuted. They weren't charged. They didn't spend the night in jail.
Well, they did have a trial, but it was an all-white jury, and they deliberated, I heard, for about an hour. Like, and of course, it was all men. Of course, we knew how it was going to go, because these men are saying, "Well, what if he would have did that to my wife? I would have did the same thing." This is the good old boys. Of course, we knew what they were going to do. And now for her to come out talking about it didn't quite happen that way, and she felt like he may have said something, wayward to her, but she don't really know the details. That was 50 years ago, but your lie back then led to his death. And you've had to live with that for all this time. And it seemed like you didn't give a damn. I don't know why it's bothering you now.
Because she's trying to get into heaven now.
Oh, now is that what it is? She's trying to clear her conscience.
When people get old, they start getting real nice. Start going to church every day. Oh, the Lord this, the Lord that. They trying to get into heaven. Think about it. My grandma, she trying to get into heaven. I just see it every day, and I'm like, I laugh at her, because I'm like, you was a doozy in your day. Now here you go.
All of a sudden being nice and really praying for folk instead of saying she's going to pray for folk and cussing them as soon as they leave.
Right. This lady trying to get into heaven now. She's trying to clear her conscience and make things right. You can't make that right after all these years.
And then the fact that he died, and then his mom is not here to hear you've actually come through with the truth and denounce that bullshit that you said that sent him to his death. You were the cause of this. And I feel just the same way as other people feel, that she should be charged somehow. Like something should be done to her, to where, because people need to know. And this is the same thing when, some women come out and say, this guy raped me, and then we find out he's been in jail for however long, and find out that he didn't do it, she lied or whatever. I feel like women should be prosecuted just like we're prosecuted. If they should have to maybe serve the remainder of the time or something. But if they had to do that, they wouldn't come and tell the truth finally. You know what I mean?
They should be charged.
Something should happen because it shouldn't be so easy. And that goes back to, I guess the word and the automatic truth of the white woman when it comes up against a black man.
It's still that way to this day.
It's still that way today.
To this day.
That's the sad part. What do we do? How do we change it? Can we change it?
Yeah, we can. We can, but it takes us participating in the democracy system that we live in. Mm-hmm. It takes us getting up and having our voices heard. It takes us doing the work. We can't just sit and do nothing and expect it to change. We can't just sit and bitch about it and expect it to change. We can't just sit and say, well, the system don't work and expect it to change.
And we're not doing anything about it.
Right. You have to get in there. You have to get involved. And unfortunately, in order to change the system, you have to get inside the system. So you got to work from within the system. You cannot change the system from outside.
And, speaking of the system, of course, you guys know with every day hearing more and more about the shenanigans and the bullshit that comes along with this current presidency, we have to talk about some of it. We're not going to spend hours talking about Donald Trump. I went on our Keep Moving Facebook page.
That's all.
And I'm like, it's so depressing. Like, it's just nonstop Donald Trump, like nothing uplifting because he does so much that we want people to be aware of.
Basis.
And so I understand why it's the onslaught of information about him because we want you guys to know what he's doing and what he's trying to prevent people from knowing.
But the jokes are like spotty.
It's like, so much. And that's what, kind of angers me a little bit. But here recently, he announced who he wanted to be his Supreme Court nomination. I think his name is Neil Gorsuch or something like that. And, okay, of course we knew that a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump were looking at the Supreme Court. This was the reason. What angers me is that Donald Trump gets up there and he's talking about his Supreme Court justice and saying how he's like a good guy and they should, vote for him. And if the Democrats decide to try and pull a filibuster like the Republicans have done, and they denied President Obama the Supreme Court pick, which was his, then they should go nuclear. And which entails mean if they don't want to vote for it, instead of them needing 60 votes, then they'll just go with the majority. And we know the Republicans have the majority in the Senate, in Congress, period. So that removes the checks and balances. It removes basically the understanding that both sides have agreed to that this is what it's going to be. Because if that was the case, the Democrats could have done that a long time ago and cheated the system. And push whatever they wanted to in. Well, that angers me a little bit.
Here's a few things I'm confused about, and I'm not necessarily confused about. Normally, I would save this for the end of the show, just kind of my little tidbit of information to pass on. Mm-hmm. But I'm a marketer by trade. This is what I do, marketing. I am the person that sits there and tries to figure out how to manipulate you into buying something you really don't need.
So you're the enemy, basically.
When it comes to your money, yes. So. But understand, marketers have tricks. There are tricks, sex sells. We already know that. You see half-naked person cleaning their kitchen. That's a marketing trick. Sex sells. You're going to stop and look at the half-naked person. Why you think they're trying to make Mr. Clean sexy now all of a sudden? But here's what I'm seeing. And it started with, I don't want to say it started with Obamacare. You saw little things here and there, and it's been from both parties, Democrats and Republicans, where they have gone in and they've made a change. When they started the Affordable Health Care Act, that's all the Democrats have called it. That's pretty much all they have ever called it. But Republicans made sure that they called it Obamacare. They have called it nothing but Obamacare. They want to associate that act with Obama. Therefore, those people that did not like Obama will automatically not like the Affordable Health Care plan. Yeah. Which is why a lot of people had no idea that it was the same thing.
Exactly.
So what I'm seeing now is, number one, the Republican Party wanted to stop the Affordable Health Care Act marketing campaigns. A judge had to say, no, you can't do that. They can run those campaigns. It's still the law. Until that changes, they can run it. But the whole point was, we stop advertising. People don't know it's there. People don't enroll. The numbers go down. And it looks like the people didn't want it. When in actuality, the people would have loved to have it. They just didn't know it was out there.
Right.
Now what they're doing is Neil Gorsuch commercials. I don't know if anybody's seen these, but I've seen them and they've bothered me for two reasons. One, political season's over. I don't want to see a political commercial because it's getting ready to start up here in the next 6 months again anyway. I don't want to see a political commercial. However, you're running a Neil Gorsuch commercial. It is political, but he's not running against anybody.
Right.
The people don't get to vote in
right.
this.
So what's the point?
Why are you wasting money running this ad?
Is it so that they can call and tell their congressman that we want this person in?
And that's the only thing I can think of. You can try to put it in people's head that, oh, he's such a good guy, but you don't have anybody combating that and saying, he also did this, this, and this. There's nothing there. But then the second thing is when things are going your way, do you call your congressman?
No.
You barely want to call your congressman when things aren't going your way.
Exactly.
So you're not going to call when things are going your way. So again, what is the point of these commercials? Pay attention, people. Pay attention to the spin that they are putting on these things.
This everything.
Man is a reality TV star. He knows television marketing. He knows how to spin something that looks bad. Like the pictures of Melania coming out, they come out every time he's getting ready to do something stupid. And then all of a sudden, people are focused on her and not focused on what he's doing. Look at the fake news. He's been screaming fake news, fake news, fake news. But yet he's the only one presenting fake news, like the Bowling Green massacre. And the fact that he's talking to Frederick Douglass and Martin Luther King Jr. He's the one spewing the fake news. All I'm saying is pay attention. Don't let the marketing fluff block what's
That's what's so sad. And that's what disappoints me about people is that just because he's saying that there's fake news, and even going back to the inauguration, which we're not going to spend all damn day on Donald Trump, but even going back to the inauguration, and he's talking about how the media was saying that we didn't have this many people or whatever. Well, where was your photos? Where was your people? I feel like if it was fake media, you were against the media, then you would have your team out there taking photos and combating what the other media is doing.
I mean, and he's talking about that 3 million people, the 3 million extra votes Hillary got were from dead people.
Yeah.
And his source is a man who's registered to vote in
several
states.
Yeah.
And a lot of his is not willing to talk.
Yeah.
I'm just saving that. Like, he's got a reality show. Are you kidding me? You are the president of the United States. This is not a reality show. But it is
a game
show.
To him.
Right.
It is a game to him.
And my life is not your game. This is my life we're talking about. And all of these people are still sitting here with, he's not done anything wrong.
Because it hasn't affected them.
It was only 139 people that got affected. No, they said 139 people. 10,000 plus people were affected. And not only 10,000 plus, by the immigration ban.
There's 100,000.
Oh, see, you got 100. My last count was 10.
100,000.
And not only were they
which we haven't talked about yet. I plan on going into that. Yeah, know how you do.
Not only were they affected by it, but this fool is trying to take visas away from people who we have already said, you are an American citizen. You are a green card holder. You are now a citizen of this country. You can be here. They've already gone through the vetting process.
Right.
And we trying to take them away. You can't do that.
But and that's the thing going, I guess, moving on to this immigration ban that happened over the weekend that seemed like it was so slick and sneaky and underhanded. The way Donald Trump put out this executive order, I guess the one thing that bothers me about people is that all these people voted for Donald Trump. And thus far, Donald Trump has done everything he told us he was going to do.
Oh, he's not going to do what he says he's going to do. You know what?
He's done everything.
Ladies, when a man tells you that he's going to screw you over, you believe it, right? Why is this any different?
Like, where are you finding the hope and the light at the end of the tunnel when this man has told you, he's done everything and he's shown you what he was going to do. So regarding this immigration ban, we've spent like several news cycles talking about this. They were calling it a Muslim ban back then, and it seemed like a Muslim ban now because he wanted to put a ban on incoming people from 7 of the Muslim majority countries. And so I think Rudy Giuliani came out saying he wanted to figure out how to do it without it being illegal and not basically saying it was Muslim.
Yeah.
But, how do we get around but still, have affect the Muslims? So it's bull crap. This is what he's doing. The problem is he set out this executive order, but then it wasn't thought out. Because it seemed like nobody knew what the hell was going on. So airports just started stopping everybody. And it caused so much controversy. And, refugees that had already gone through the vetting process thus far were being stopped in the country that they were in, selling all their stuff to come over here just to get on or go to the airport and being told you can't go. Those that were in the air made it to the U.S. and they're like, you know what? Hold up. You're going to have to go back.
Right back.
And then, like you mentioned, those who had green cards and visas that were already approved to be here were also being detained. And some of them were also, being rerouted other places.
People went home to visit their family for the holidays and look up and all of a sudden can't get back in the country.
Can't get back.
What's going on? I mean, look, Joe is a Visa card holder.
Right.
If Joe leaves the country right now, he might not get back in.
And even though he's from India, we know how he looks.
Right.
He's going to be. They're going to question him.
He's going to be questioned, and they still, even though he's from India and technically he's not on the list, they might not let him in.
Right. And that's the problem. And that's what was causing so much headache over the weekend, because people didn't understand where it was coming from with some people, and it wasn't really thought out and explained to those who were supposed to implement this new executive order. So Homeland Security, I heard they weren't really briefed on what to do. TSA wasn't briefed on what to do. Local, police officer or the police departments didn't know what to do. And so what happened? The citizens banded together and went out in droves into several airports and started to protest and denounce this bull crap. And it's a beautiful thing when people come together and stand up against the bull crap. I just hate the fact that, it's a part of me hates that we have to stand up and fight against the president.
Right. But that's crazy.
This makes no sense. This is stuff that you hear in like third world countries where it's not really a democracy. But in the United States, where we're supposed to have the supreme type of leadership and this open democracy, like, it's not supposed to happen here.
I hated Bush Jr.
I know who you're talking about.
W. Like Senior either. But I hated Bush with a passion.
Mm-hmm.
I did not like him in that seat. But
I feel like he didn't deserve it. Deserved to be, but nothing he said or did bothered me.
I felt like
he
was not educated enough to be in that seat.
He wasn't.
And period. He didn't need the job. However, now I talked crap about him the whole time he was in there,
mm-hmm.
of course. And when he was gone, when he left, I was glad to see him go. But the feeling that I had for him is nothing. I would pray for him versus this fool we got right now.
Mm-hmm.
This man is a 12-year-old toddler. Dr. Phil went through a list of what a narcissist was.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, he fit every single solitary point. A narcissist had to be a certain number of, well, not even a certain number. You had to have certain qualities.
Uh-huh.
He fit every single quality, every single one. It was like a list of 20. And he fit into every single category. This man does not belong in this seat. He doesn't. He is doing this to make a public spectacle of this. He wants to build himself up,
mm-hmm.
make himself feel like he's the biggest and the best and he can do everything and anything he wants. But the bottom line is presidential power is not as strong as you think it is.
That's where what I had.
They proved that with Obama.
Well, but no, they proved it with Obama, but there's nobody going against him right now.
We got
the federal courts. I'm saying, but as far as Congress is concerned, maybe it's because it's executive orders. Maybe that's the reason.
No, as far as Congress is concerned, they're not going
right.
against
That's what I'm talking about.
They are majority Republican. However, it does not take a majority of Congress to change the Constitution. It takes 3/4 majority vote. to change the Constitution. Way more Republicans than are in there is going to take to change the Constitution. And what he's messing with is Constitution. This is why the judges and the lawyers and everybody who keeps saying no, the Yates, this is why she said no. It's too much here. We don't know.
The Department of Justice?
Yes, the head of the Department of Justice. This is why she said no. Right now, you just threw this out here, and we don't even know if this is lawful. A federal judge is now saying, nope, you got to stop. Mm-hmm. Because we don't know if this is lawful, and until this can go through the courts now, not going to happen. Now, they can rush track it through the courts and try to get it to the Supreme Court before he gets his nominee cleared. More than welcome to. Or they can take this and make it crawl through the courts, because it's going to have to deny multiple courts before it gets to the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. So right now, and he's okay. So now the Justice Department is filing back an appeal. Well, right. you got to hear a case first. Case hasn't even been heard. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to file the appeal, I assume, to keep the ban going until the case is heard.
And don't you find it mighty funny that I think her name was Sally Yates, who was the head of the Department of Justice. Mm-hmm. He fired her.
Yeah, and then you're fired.
Yeah, he put somebody else in that position, and now
who's going to do what he what he wants.
This is a problem.
This is a real problem.
And so you question
what the presidency is supposed to
you
be
question
about.
The checks and balances that we were taught. Were the executive and the legislative branch and
and when our checks and balances are not in place, the thing is democracy goes away. Mm-hmm. And you begin to get a different type of government, and you have a
that's
government
exactly
like
what it's
Parliament.
feeling like.
And if that's where y'all want to be, I'm sorry, go back home. If that's the kind of government you want to go say, then I'm going to say what you all say to every person of color in this country.
Go back to Africa.
Go back to where you came from, because you are the first immigrant here, and guaranteed most people would prefer you leave anyway.
And don't you find it funny? We've also been hearing from a lot of Trump supporters that are saying, I voted for you, and then their family members or some people that they love got caught up in this immigration ban or whatever, because they didn't believe that he would actually do what he said he was going to do.
When a guy tells you he don't love you, when a guy tells you he gonna sleep with other girls, you need to take him for his word. Just like when this fool said, this is what I'm going to do. Take him for his word. It came out of his mouth. Nobody made it up.
And what's crazy is that he hasn't even been in there really, 2 weeks? 2 weeks. And he's done so much of what he said he was going to do. It's like he's signing, and he's not
already going on vacation.
Already. And the thing is, like, nothing's being passed through Congress. He's not even having a conversation with them. He's just executive order after executive order. It's just nonsense. And then has the nerve to have a problem.
Everything. Oh, Obama. Oh, well, Obama. The Army guy, not Army. He's military. That died.
Navy SEAL?
Yes, that's the word.
For the Yemen raid?
The SEAL and the little girl that died when in the raid.
Okay.
He wants to blame that on Obama. Mm-hmm. And he keeps saying, well, Obama set it up. Obama couldn't have approved it. Right. It was no way Obama could have approved it. It only could have been approved by the new president.
Are you talking about the raid in Yemen?
Yes.
Is that what you're... Okay.
Yes, because of the timing. He blames that on Obama, but he wants to take credit for Obama's jobs.
Right.
It's like, really, dude? I had something to do with that because I brought those companies back. Those companies hadn't left yet. So those jobs were already counted. You can't take credit for something that you haven't done.
I've never been so disgusted in a person. Like, I don't find any redeeming qualities in this guy. And I don't see how other people do. You see more and more celebrities coming out like, we need to give him a chance. I will give him a chance once he proves himself to be for people and not for his own benefit or the benefit of his family.
Well, in about 10 years, he'll start being nice to people because he'll be trying to get into heaven too.
Oh, I'll pray right now that God close the damn gates. Anyway,
I can't go that far.
The last thing we're going to talk about, and I wanted to mention it. I read an article that George Bush Sr. is supposed to be flipping the coin at the Super Bowl.
Okay, let's see. Y'all thought I was joking when I said
I remembered when you were talking about he didn't want to go to this inauguration.
Remember, Barbara Bush, they just kept her because she had been feeling ill earlier. So they gonna keep her. And then he got sick all of a sudden. I'm like, yeah, he just trying to get out of that inauguration and have a real excuse. And now he flipping the coin.
That's the first. I promise you, when I saw that, I said, Novelty is going to enjoy this.
You old. Your time is almost over. And
but I feel like at this point,
just but be honest.
Yeah, I'm like, at this point, you at that age where you can say whatever the hell you want to say.
Crotchety age.
Exactly. Like, you know what? Forget that dude.
Right.
And I wouldn't say forget. I would say it all. You know what I mean? Because he's not worthy of my attendance. I don't support his ass. You go to hell.
Right. You at that crotchety age where you can say that.
I'm playing golf.
And get away with
Kiss my ass.
And then on inauguration day, make sure somebody takes a picture of you playing golf.
Yeah, or at the beach sunbathing or whatever you do. Just you didn't have time for that bullshit. But
right.
Anyway, I didn't want to make it too long. I didn't want to focus so much on Trump, so I wanted to get just a little bit out there. But Trump, we just so inundated with all of his shenanigans day in and day out.
I mean,
and it's
that's
draining.
it. We want the audience to know that we really are not trying to become a political show.
Right.
Because we're not the news.
We're not.
Absolutely not. We have stupid commentary on everything.
Right.
We are just
but the news has become the news has become what the hell did he do today? What did he say today?
Right.
Who has he pissed off today? Was it Australia? Is it Iran? Is it what other country?
You can't ignore what is happening. And yeah, we are supposed to be three people, but we're just three people sitting here telling jokes. And I say for probably the last 5 months, it's gotten real serious. And we're not doing it on purpose. We hope y'all keep listening. We promise it's going to be some jokes someday. We're going to get back to the crazy stories again and the heartening stories. And we're going to get back to good news.
Hopefully.
If we can.
That's our prayer.
Even with the Facebook page, it's like you go and you see a couple of little jokes here and there, but
he's running the news cycle. And I hate it.
You can't not keep people informed.
Yeah.
You just can't.
I still hate it. But anyway, any final thoughts?
Let's pray. That's all we can
As
do.
always. Anyway, thank you all so much for tuning in. Until next time, take care of yourselves.
Good night.